Today on What It's Like 1963 Studebaker Avanti. But before getting into all of that, I'm Jay. Welcome to What It's Like. This channel, we feature the classics, vintage, some exotics, lots of orphan cars, and cars off the beaten path. If that sounds of interest to you, subscribe, hit the bell icon next to it to never miss a video. If you would like to get in touch with me, leave a comment in the comments section. I read every single comment posted. The other way, we recently made a Facebook group that correlates with this YouTube channel. No obligation to join, just simply saying it's a thing and it's out there. The best thing about the YouTube channel is it gives you the opportunity to share your stories, experiences, as well as pictures of your rides. If you're interested in that, the link will be in the description. Before getting into the Avanti, let's talk Studebaker. 1963 Studebaker lineup consisted of the Lark, Cruiser, Wagonaire, Hawk Gran Turismo, and then at the top of the heap sat the Avanti. This was Studebaker's halo car and was produced by Studebaker from 1962 to 1963, designed by Raymond Loewy and Associates. The Avanti was marketed as America's only high-performance four-passenger personal car. They ended up taking the Avanti to the Bonneville Salt Flats. Important to note, this was the R3 version, which used a supercharged 289, and it reached speeds of 178.5 miles per hour and broke 29 speed records. Okay, I really want to show you this part. So if one asks Google, hey, what is the fastest car in the world in 1963? This is what comes up. These are the results that you get. These are the top results. You have to dig down deeper to find out that the Avanti was faster than these cars. But anyway, 1963 Isogriffo GL 365. Top speed was 161 miles per hour. The Avanti did it in 178.5 miles per hour. So just keep that in mind. 1965 AC Cobra Mark III 427, 165 miles per hour. 1967 Lamborghini Miura P 400, 171 miles per hour. 1968 Ferrari 365 GTB 4 Daytona, 174 miles per hour. And the crazy thing is the Avanti is faster than all of those cars, but it's not on this list for some reason. But if you scroll down just a little bit further, you will find an article, classicmotorsports.com, Studebaker Avanti, world's fastest production car. On the return of the leg of a 20-mile record run, the Avanti reached a speed of 178.5 miles per hour. The slippery Studebaker shattered record after record, blowing through and that's all you could read from the headline. But why is this car, even after the company went under, why is it still being suppressed? Like, why did Studebaker not get the coverage? If it had a Chevy bow tie badge, it would have been looked upon differently. It would have been the headline of headlines. But since it was a Studebaker, even back then, auto critics didn't give it the praise or glory that it probably deserved. Years later, it's still not being recognized. Why? In the comment section below. The Avanti name is Italian and it means forward or onward, which in my opinion, there couldn't be a better name for this. This was Studebaker's swan song, and I think Studebaker even knew the end was inevitable and it was near. This could be their legacy car. Studebaker introduced the Avanti publicly April 26, 1962 at the New York International Auto Show. Studebaker had planned to sell 20,000 units for the 1962 model year, but they could only build 1,200 units. Also important to note, this car is made completely, the body is made completely out of fiberglass, or glass fiber for those across the pond. And to my knowledge, it's the only complete car built by Studebaker made of fiberglass. I know they did fiberglass fins at one point, but to my knowledge, this is the only Studebaker that was made out of fiberglass, the whole car. December 20th, 1963, Studebaker closed the South Bend, Indiana plant, which is where it all started, clear back in 1852. That hurts just thinking about it. 1852, they were building wagons and horse-drawn carriages. Then they moved to electric car production. Then they produced gas-powered cars. A couple episodes back in the 1963 Studebaker Hawk Gran Turismo episode, I said something to the effect that Studebaker technically didn't go out of business. They just stopped making cars. May 1967, Studebaker merges with Wagner Electric. November of that same year, Studebaker was merged with Worthington Corporation, then was known as Studebaker Worthington Corporation. Studebaker name went dormant in 1979. McGraw-Edison acquired Studebaker Worthington, and then they were bought out by Cooper Industries. Cooper Industries sold off the auto divisions to a federal mogul. Getting back to the Avanti, let's talk specs. 192.4 inches long, 70.3 inches wide, 53.8 inches tall, rides a wheelbase of 109 inches, weighs 3,095 pounds, price $4,440, which was equivalent to you spending $42,989.07 in year 2022. Really cool technicality that I just saw. This car is the successor to the Hawk Gran Turismo, and the Gran Turismo, with the same body design, just with a different hood ornament, succeeds the Avanti. In the comments section, can you think of any other cars in this conundrum? Real quick, interesting thing to point out. If you take away all of the fiberglass and you're left with just the chassis, this chassis is actually the chassis of the Studebaker Lark 109-inch convertible chassis. Moving on to engines, all the engines for the Studebaker Avanti have an R in front of them. An R could mean whatever you want it to mean, but Studebaker didn't really have a name for the R. I always thought it meant race or radical, but it doesn't really mean anything. And they were all called jet thrust engines. So the R1, 289 cubic inch displacement V8, 4.7 liters, had a bore of 3.56 inches and a stroke of 3.62 inches, compression 10-25-1. It was fed with a 4-barrel carburetor. Cast iron was what the block was made out of. It produced 240 horsepower. Moving up the ladder to the R2, and it's important to note that most Studebaker Avantis were equipped with either the R1 or the R2 engine. Moving up to the R2, 289 cubic inch displacement. This one was supercharged V8, 4.7 liters. Bore is the same, 3.56 inches. Stroke, 3.62 inches. Compression was 9-1. Fed with a 4-barrel carburetor, used 5 quarts of oil. This engine made 290 brake horsepower at 5,000 RPM, 360 foot-pounds of torque at 3,400 RPM. Moving to the R3. The R3, I have to make a correction from earlier. The R3 is a highly modified 289, and what I mean by that is they bored it out to 304.5 cubic inches. It was supercharged V8, 5 liters. It's important to note that they only built 9 of these back in 1963. The other side note is this is the car that they took to the Bonneville Salt Flats and broke 29 speed records with. It made anywhere between 335 horsepower and 400 horsepower at 6,000 RPM with a bore of 3.65 inches and a stroke of 3.62 inches. It used 6 quarts of oil. It was fed with a 4-barrel carburetor. Moving on to the final 2 engines, and they were experimental engines, and they wasn't really sold to the public. The R4 utilized the 304.5 cubic inch displacement V8, 5 liters, but this one did not feature a supercharger. Instead, it had dual quads and a higher compression ratio, 12-1 compression, produced 280 horsepower, moving to the biggest and baddest engine that Studebaker ever produced, the R5. 304.5 cubic inch displacement, V8, 5 liters, but this one had 2 Paxton superchargers. It also featured magneto ignition, Bendix, fuel injection, produced an incredible 575 horsepower. Some say that this car would go over 200 miles per hour, and I wish that this car got the coverage that it deserved back in the day, and I'm sure things would have been different if it had a bow tie on the hood. Talking about twin supercharged cars, maybe this is where Carroll Shelby got the idea to put 2 superchargers on his AC Cobra, aka the Super Snake. That car had a twin supercharged 427. Bill Cosby owned one and Shelby owned the other one. And to my knowledge, there was only two. One of them got wrecked. There's only one left. Anyway, let's go on to transmissions. 3 transmissions on offer, 3-speed manual, 4-speed manual, or a 3-speed automatic. This is usually the part where we take the tour, but the story, the Avanti story, didn't end with Studebaker. After the closure of Studebaker's South Bend plant, the press, or as it's referred to now as the media, ran a bad press report on Avanti saying that Studebaker would not produce that car. And that was the furthest thing from the truth, because Studebaker still had a factory in Canada, the Hamilton plant. It was their sole plant, but they were going to build the Avanti there. After Studebaker merged with Wagner Electric, the Avanti name, tooling, and plant space was sold to 2 South Bend, Indiana Studebaker dealers, Nate Altman and Leo Newman. They reintroduced the Avanti by slightly modifying the original version. They used GM engines in their design, and it's important to note that Altman and Newman didn't have any connection to the Studebaker brand name. Their company was called the Avanti Motor Corporation. Studebaker built 4,647 Avantis. About 3,000 Avantis were built after Studebaker stopped making cars. I just want to show you this door handle real quick. Look at the design of it. It almost looks like a Stingray. Say like this is the body of the Stingray and this is the tail. Keyhole here. This part flips out to open the door. So let's talk about this door panel. Armrest here. This armrest looks very Chrysler-like in a sense that how it protrudes outward like this. Looks very Chrysler-esque. Armrest, door handle. This is the door handle to get out. The crank. And notice this window is all trimmed out. Vent windows here. But just look at how that operates. Coming down here to the pedal box. This is the hood release, clutch, brake, gas, high beam switch. I'm not going to get in the back seat. He has a lot of memorabilia back here, but if you wanted to get in the back seat, just check out these seats. These seats almost look like seats out of like an MG or an MGA from the 1950s. And just push it forward like that to access the rear. Ashtray, armrest. These windows open. They open like that. On to the button switches and knobs. Starting left and moving right. Clock. Notice the clock. The perception isn't straight on. The clock is actually angled to the right. Water temperature, battery, speedometer. Notice 160 mile per hour printed top speed. Not the top speed of the car, depending on what engine you had. There is an odometer inside the speedometer. Right below the speedometer are the windshield wipers. There are 2 small green circles. They are for the left and right turn signal indicators. RPM gauge. Ignition is located just below that. Fuel, oil pressure, vacuum pressure gauge. This car is equipped with the R2 variety, 289 supercharged. Moving to the center, radio with the radio controls. I don't know how well you can see this, but this is actually curved. This gauge is pointing this way, and this gauge over here is pointing this way. It's not flat, it's actually pointing over. So here's the center console. Ashtray. These are all the climate control settings here. This is left hand vent, temp, defroster heat, right vent. This one's got a glove box as well as a perfume makeup accessory kit. This is what over the hood impression looks like. There are no sun visors in this car, but there are buttons up here for lights. This heat, air, instrument lights, lights. There's lots of space underneath the steering wheel. It's a very comfortable seating position in here, especially the over the hood look, first person look. This is what I look like. There's there's not a whole lot of headroom, but it's very comfortable. I don't feel claustrophobic in this car whatsoever. Notice the position of the mirrors. They're on the fenders. Both of them are. So just check out the gas door even. That's where the fuel goes. It's not complete square. It's very cool. Moving to the under the hood section, this car has a 289 supercharged, so that makes it the R2 variety. It's also worth mentioning, if you opted for a supercharger, you could not get AC because of space. This car also has power brakes with a dual master cylinder reservoir. On to the pros and cons section. I am getting all of these pros and cons from the complete book of collectible cars, blue chip auto investments, 70 years from 1930 to 2000 by Richard M. Langworth and the Auto Editors of Consumer Guide. On the positive side, a truly important post-war car with milestone status, high performance, high desirability, always a showstopper, no rust body, one of the very few Studebakers so blessed. Against it, variable fiberglass finish, not cheap on today's collector's market, a little bit thirsty. All right, now it's time for Name That Tune. I am looking for the correct name of the band / artist as well as song title. First person to do that will have their comment pinned to the top of the comment section. This one is a little tricky. So they actually released this song twice by two different bands and they both sound very similar. So whatever band you give me, I'll go with. Here is another tidbit. There's another song that's really similar to this that I get confused with all the time. But yeah, so there's only one band that produced this song around that time period. So I'm looking for the correct band as well as title of song. First person to do that will have their comment pinned to the top of the comment section. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate all the support. We just crested 8,000 subscribers. We're trying to get to 10,000 by the middle or / end of September. So please continue to share this channel. We've come such a long way in a very short amount of time, and we are just getting started. Also, what cars would you like to see featured on the channel? Put it in the comments section below, and I will do my best to track those down. Until next time, toodaloo!